All right. What's up, Phins fans? We are back with the Phins Forecast. We are back with another show. Tonight today we are talking about AFC East. We're going to talk about the AFC East power rankings. We're going to go through every team, strengths, weaknesses, and where we personally rank each team in the AFC East. Again, off season isn't over. Not by a long shot. Training camp hasn't even started. So these are subject to change. But I don't know. It's kind of a nice little exercise to do right now, just to kind of see where we think the Dolphins stand, in comparison to the rest of the AFC East, that is. So, Josh, how you doing tonight, man?
Doing wonderful, man. Really, really excited to, I love being on with you guys. Yeah. Talking to the fans, talking about Miami Dolphins football. Who's better than us?
Absolutely. Taylor, how you doing tonight?
Doing pretty good. I'm excited to get into our preseason.
Yeah.
AFC East rankings, and I'll tell you what, I like how throughout these videos you've done like tonight, this morning, whenever, and you just progressed throughout the videos, and that's been really great to see.
Yeah. Well, tonight, this morning, whatever, like whenever you happen to be watching this show,
there you go.
I'm speaking to you. All right, so let's get into it, guys. AFC East power rankings. I think things have gotten tighter. I think, there isn't as much of a disparity as there was going into last season, all things being equal and everything. So, Taylor, I guess I'll start with you here. How do you see this shaking out right now?
Are we going to do all four?
Yeah, do all four.
Okay. So I got the Bills number one, obviously. Yeah. They are the team to beat. And despite us having some questions about their draft class here and there, we still sat here, Josh, last week, and we're talking about, hey, they still got Josh Allen. They still got one hell of a coaching staff. They still got one hell of an offensive line, and they still made some great moves in the offseason. So, yeah, they are the team to beat until proven otherwise. Number two, this was way harder than I thought it'd be. I got the Dolphins. I thought about putting the Patriots here because of how good they're offense. But it's still, even with Mike Vrabel there, it is unproven. You got a quarterback going into his second season with a new head coach, a lot of new faces around there. We'll see how that pans out. But I really like what the Patriots did, but what the Dolphins have done over the last 2-3 seasons, they kind of just tell me, like, until proven otherwise, they are the second team in this division. And last, but
third.
Well, the third was the Patriots.
Okay, yeah. All right.
And I already kind of talked about them. And last and kind of least, the New York Football Jets. And this sounds like a big shot towards the Jets fan base, but Josh, you and I talked last week about the draft class and the free agency for the Jets and how it felt like a team that was rebuilding.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the Jets are doing. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
So them being fourth in the division, not saying like, oh, this team's going to suck for the next 10 years. I'm just saying this next season, they don't look that good. It's as nice as I could put it.
That's fair. I think and I don't know what your rankings are going to look like, Josh. I only know what my rankings are going to look like, and I know what Taylor's rankings are now. But I think going into this season, the Bills are probably the clear-cut number one. But after that, you could really rank any of these next three teams between 2 and 4, and I don't think you'd be wrong in doing so. So, Josh, give me your preseason AFC's power rankings.
Yeah, so I have the Bills number 4. No, I'm kidding. No,
I mean, so you're going for views.
Yeah, I'm going for clicks, baby. No, it's literally the exact same. I have Buffalo as number 1. I mean, look, until they're dethroned, they're the best. I mean, I hate to say it, they're the best team in the division, and they have been for a while, and they will be for a while.
Yeah.
And I don't know, Keith, if we're going to get into each individual team. So, because I'll hold off on some of the stuff, or do you want me just to go dive into each one now?
Dive in, man.
All right. So, yeah. So, I mean, Buffalo, right? So they're my number 1, right? I mean, for their strengths, high level Josh Allen, right? Still a dynamic dual threat quarterback, right? Best one in the AFC, second best in the AFC. Sorry. The dual threat quarterback.
Yeah.
Behind, you know who. Coaching staff stability, right? McDermott and his whole staff. We talked about McDermott till we were blue in the face last week. And I will continue to talk about him when I talk about the Bills. You know, love him, hate him, whatever. He's a damn good coach. Yeah. And I think their defense this season has lost a lot of like names, but has gotten much better, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so I think they have an underrated defense for a team that's going to have 13, 14 wins this year. I think their wide receiver room took a step back. So, you know, from a weakness standpoint, I think their wide receiver room did take a slight step back. Maybe there's you can say maybe there's some age issues, some age concerns. Some of their players are getting up there in age, but I do know that they re-upped a lot of their younger players already. So that's great for them. And, I am interested to see what they do when all of the big money hits from a cap standpoint, right? Because it's, you know, Josh Allen's $300 bajillion contract that he signed, which I am not criticizing. If you're going to throw it to anyone, you give it to that guy, right? His big cap hits start hitting, I think, next year or the year after, and it's going to be real interesting to see how they navigate. Now, they've been really good drafters, so maybe it's not a problem for them and they just continue the trend. But when big money hits, that's when you start seeing some stuff. Number 2 is obviously the Miami Dolphins. And this wasn't really that close for me. I mean, look, we gave the Patriots a lot of flowers on last week's show. And I think they deserved it, right? I think they crushed the coaching staff hires. They crushed them. They crushed the draft. I think like national media has them ranked as the number 2 or the number 3 draft in the entire NFL from a value standpoint, from a talent standpoint. And they had a crap load of money to spend, right? But I think Miami is still the more talented team now at the positions where it matters, AKA the quarterback. And I think so from a Miami standpoint, right, we have the speed on offense, but I like that we've, you know, some of the strengths, speed on offense with Achane, Wright, Waddle, Tyreek, but also speed on the offensive line. We've gotten faster and bigger there at the same time, which is awesome. You know, the youth movement that we've seen come in Miami, I think is going to help tremendously. We've already talked about it. And the improvement to the front 7, right? I mean, Kenneth Grant on the defensive side pairing with Sealer is and Jordan Phillips, not that Jordan Phillips, but the new Jordan Phillips, the Jordan Phillips 2.0, if you will. There's a lot to like on that defensive front 7, right? From the linebackers that we brought in free agency to the additions we made on the defensive line. This is going to be a real exciting defensive front. Then you factor in the additions on the offensive line and not only the starting offensive line, but the fact that it allows lesser, in air quotes, players to play in their proper positions, right? So you don't have the Liam Eichenbergs of the world and I'm drawing a blank on the other guy that starts for us a lot, Kendall Lamb.
Kendall Lamb, Robert Jones.
Yeah, Robert. Like you don't have those players starting. Yeah. I mean, barring injury, they're where they're supposed to be, right?
You also don't have Patrick Paul playing right tackle either.
Right, exactly. Yowza. Yeah. And is for all the flack that we give McDaniel, and we just got done talking about the coaching staff, we have coaching continuity.
Yeah.
Right. That's huge going into yet another season. From a weakness standpoint from the Dolphins, you know, late season performances. We'll see how it goes this year, you know, and cold weather track record and health, right? So those are kind of the big things, not necessarily all things that we can 100% as a team control. It's just a matter of getting your players to buy into making the right decisions when they need to. Third, in the AFC East, I have the New England Patriots. And, you know, I know, Taylor, you said it was a lot closer than you wanted it to be. For me, it wasn't, right? I think they have a new identity under Vrabel. They do. It's going to be tough. But this is also the first year of a coaching staff, and there's going to be growing pains. There's going to be growing pains from a scheme, from a terminology, from getting new players bought in, from getting old players bought in, from getting younger players to understand the scheme and the play calls and not making mistakes. You know, so those are going to all be growing pains, and that's expected. That is not a slight on New England. That happens, right?
Yeah.
They have a really young defensive core with some good draft picks and Christian Gonzalez coming back, and they have some building blocks. They've made smart choices. you know, I'm going to say a weakness is for me was their quarterback situation. And that is not a slight on Drake May, right? But Drake May's in year 2. And what happens to quarterbacks in years 2? It's one of two things. You either make the second year jump or you're in the second year slump, right?
Yeah.
So what is going to happen? Where is he going to fall? Is he going to fall somewhere in the middle, or is he going to fall on one end of the spectrum or the other? So it'll be real fun to watch, especially having a brother and a lot of really close friends that are Patriots fans. I get to talk crap, or I get crap talk to me. So, we'll see. And then the Jets, I think it would be irresponsible of us to put any one of the other teams below the Jets, right? And that's not. We all know how I feel about the Jets. And sorry if you're watching this, Jets fans. I have well over 35, well, almost 40, but that I remember 35, 36 years of hating you. So it's not going to end anytime soon. And, but they have an elite defense. They have key pieces at foundational positions, which is awesome for the Jets, right? Go team. However, they're the Jets and they're in a full rebuild. So you can suck, right? And it's okay to suck in a rebuild. You swung and hit a home run with the Mimbu pick. You made some really good choices in the draft. You have Wilson, you have Sauce Gardner, you have Quentin Williams, you have Breece Hall. You have pieces. You just have to get out of your own way and stop being the Jets.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. That's fair. I'm actually going to go in a different direction. Like you said, it's irresponsible to put any team but the Jets at number 4. I actually have the Patriots at number 4.
I want to hear
now,
this. Yeah.
Well, I like their off-season moves. I like their draft. I like what they did. But Milton Williams, he doesn't move the needle for you, man. Like that was an overpay. That wasn't like guys like that, and I understand, like you scrimp and you save and you for years, you do this so that you can have an off season where you can basically throw caution to the wind and spend as much money as you want in free agency. And the Patriots certainly did that. But some of these guys they brought in felt like overpays. And Milton Williams being one of them. Milton Williams had the benefit of playing next to who, for my money, is the best defensive tackle in football in Jalen Carter. That allowed him to kind of cook in his own right. And I think the Patriots brought in a bunch of guys like that, guys that are good players, but you might end up regretting that contract, 2 or 3 years.
There's a lot of projection.
Yeah.
In the signings.
Yeah, exactly. And Drake May, I'm not convinced yet. I think Drake May can be a good quarterback. I think the tools are certainly there. He made some nice plays last year. He made some nice strides last year. Took his lumps. But I'm not convinced that Drake May is the answer just yet. I like Mike Vrabel as a coach, but I'm not convinced about the Patriots as a whole.
Whereas I'll put it to you this way before you get to the Jets, right?
Yeah.
I think they traded away the better of the 2 rookies. And that was a huge point of contention on last week's show because I said Milton, in my opinion, coming out of the draft, Milton out of Tennessee was a better quarterback, in my opinion, than Drake May coming out of UNC.
And you got roasted in the comments.
And I don't care. I'll stay.
The opinions of Josh do not necessarily reflect those on Phins Forecast or literally anybody who hears the podcast in total.
Taylor, you told me to say that.
No, I did not. I would never tell anybody to say that.
We will certainly throw that disclaimer out there for anybody watching. But and I can't get, I wasn't on the show with you guys last week, but I can't get down with that line of thinking. I'll be honest with you, Josh. But and I think Joe Milton has tools, but Drake May also has tools, and I think Drake May is a mature young quarterback. Maybe part of it is he wears the same number as Mac Jones, and
what's sound logic?
No, I look at him and I see Mac Jones, and some of the throws he made last year were Mac Jones-esque.
Well, that was his comp. That was his player comp.
Yeah.
I love how I was about to help Keith out there. I was like, you just want to see more. And then as soon as I was about to say it, Keith's like, well, he just has the same number as Mac Jones. Well, all right,
I'm out.
No, but I do need to see more from him. And so Patriots are my number 4 team until proven otherwise. Number 3, I have the Jets. Now,
you're excited about Fields?
I am excited about Fields for the Jets, actually. If I'm a Jets fan, I'm excited about Justin Fields. I think I'm a bigger fan of Justin Fields than I think most people who watch the NFL are. People tend to forget that Justin Fields had the Steelers at 4-2 when Russell Wilson took over for them last year.
I think more it was the Steelers that had Fields at 4-2 than Fields having the Steelers at 4-2.
Yeah,
okay,
maybe, but he wasn't losing them football games. And he didn't have a Garrett Wilson to throw to. He didn't have a Breece Hall to hand the ball off to. And he didn't have as good of an offensive line as the Jets are going to have this season. I love what the Jets did in the past few drafts. They brought in Olu Fashanu from Penn State, and then they turned around and doubled down and brought in Armand Membo. So now their tackle positions are fortified, and they're good to go for the next 10 years. That's awesome for them. If I'm a Jets fan, I am pumped about that. As an offensive line guy, like that would make me happy to the point of like crying happy tears. And I look at the Jets, and like you said, Josh, they have pieces. They have guys like Garrett Wilson, like Sauce Gardner, like they brought in Azariah Thomas in the draft, and I think he was an underrated cornerback coming out of Florida State. I think this is a Jets team that has, I think this is a Jets team that has an elite defense. They have a top 5 defense if the offense can be a functional offense.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Justin Fields will allow them to be a functional offense because of his running ability, because I think he's still growing as a passer.
Mm-hmm.
I like Aaron Glenn, and I think the Jets are going to be better than a lot of people think this year.
So let me ask you a question, right? So they had everyone you mentioned outside of Armand Membu, Mason Taylor, and their new quarterback in Fields last year and the year before, and they have sucked every year. What's going to make the difference?
Well,
I mean, why all of a sudden?
Well,
I'm not criticizing their players. I think Sauce Gardner individually is a great player. Quinn Williams individually is a great player. Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, et cetera, but they don't ever seem to do this.
Well, I think one thing, their coaching staff was a disaster last year. I think Robert Saleh was overmatched as a head coach. I think Jeff Ulbrich was overmatched as an interim head coach, as a defensive coordinator. And I think Aaron Glenn, based on how he handled things in Detroit last year, when just, you want to talk about injuries, like that Detroit defense, and Aaron Glenn held together for the most part. Now, towards the end of the season, the defense just faltered because they just didn't have anybody left. But I like the way Aaron Glenn handled that last year. And I think Aaron Glenn, having already played in New York, he knows how the New York media works. I think he's better equipped to handle being the head coach of the New York Jets than Robert Saleh ever was. So I think that's part of it. Also, I think Aaron Rodgers, in hindsight, bringing in Aaron Rodgers was a bad move by the Jets. Just bringing in an absolute attention whore into that circus was just a bad move all around.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, all those factors, come into play. If you can get Justin Fields to just play safe football, don't turn the ball over football, kind of get the ball out to your best players, be a point guard, run when necessary. He's one of the best running quarterbacks in the NFL. I think you might have something here in New York, and I think that they might be better than people think.
I just don't see a world in which Justin Fields is a good quarterback. I don't.
So what Keith's talking about here, I do disagree somewhat with, I guess with the power of hindsight, you can look at Aaron Rodgers' deal. It's really bad. You really turn over the offense, get a bunch of guys from the Green Bay, you become the Green Bay Jets. It doesn't work out. Now, you could say, is it a upgrade or downgrade going to Justin Fields? But the one thing I will say to Keith's benefit is it's a win-win regardless for the Jets. Because right now, Josh, you said it, I said it, they are rebuilding.
Mm-hmm.
Again, nothing wrong with rebuilding. You made a lot of good moves in the offseason as well. We talked about Membu, Mason Taylor, all that stuff. But if Justin Fields works out, you got a quarterback. You got somebody to build around. If he doesn't, who kind of cares? Because you're sitting there in your rebuilding phase, and you just go, all right, that didn't work. We didn't invest 5 years into it of guaranteed money. Let's just go draft a guy in 2026, 2027.
Yeah, maybe they get Manning.
Yeah.
then the New York Jets instantly become a really good team, in my opinion. But
hot take, I get everybody talking about Arch Manning as well. I don't think he's even the best quarterback coming out so far this year.
No, you like Quinn Ewers over him, right?
No, I do not. Just to reiterate, Arch Manning was better than Quinn Ewers.
Yeah.
There's a few quarterbacks coming out in 2026. So, again, if it doesn't work out with Justin Fields, it's no harm to the Jets.
I don't know. I've seen too much of Justin Fields already to know that he's not a good player. He's not a good quarterback. He's not.
I just think, and I understand that take, Josh. I really do. I just think there's more to, and I'm probably like on an island when I say this, but I think there's more to Justin Fields than meets the eye. And if he ever puts it together, he's going to be an absolute monster. And I think he's Anthony Richardson with a work ethic. He's Anthony Richardson with a team first mentality. And if you can ever put all that together,
That's a big if. That's a big if. But you're right. I mean, look, how many years has he been in the league roughly?
I want to say 3 or 4.
2021 draft.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, is there time? Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, cool. But I mean, he's been on teams with great offensive lines or good offensive lines. He's been on teams with good running backs. He's been on teams with good wide receivers. He's been on a team with one of the better head coaches in the last 2 decades. Mm-hmm. And he's not there anymore. So it's one of those, and I had him on my fantasy league. So I know that he did not put up really great numbers if he played at all.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things where I get it. Who cares? Right? We're in a rebuilding mode. There's no pressure. Go out and just sling the ball and see what happens, right? I get it. But for a team that has the talent that they do, which grosses me out that I'm giving them this much compliments and that they drafted as well as they did the last 2 years, for you to be bottom of the league every year, it's crazy to me, right? You have too much talent to be this bad.
And that's why I have them over the New England Patriots. And that's why I was tempted to put them over the Miami Dolphins. I was tempted.
No.
I was very tempted. Hey, look.
I'm going to put you in timeout for 2 minutes.
Well, all right.
Would you like to take that delusional name that I have and put it in front of yours?
Let me ask you this, guys. Let me ask you this.
Sure.
Where are the holes on the New York Jets? Outside of Justin Fields, where are the holes in this
coaching staff, quarterback, which – yes, I do. That's what I believe.
You don't know that.
What I believe. You don't know that Justin Fields is going to be good.
That's fair. That's
right.
Fair.
You don't know that their offensive line is. Membu might shit the bed. You don't know.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Their offensive line was horrible last year. So we think one player is going to magically make them good. I don't. I mean, there's too much.
There are holes in the Miami Dolphins. Sure. There is a giant hole in the secondary. Mm-hmm. Safety, cornerback room. There's a hole. If Tua goes down, Tua has not exactly been known as a beacon of health. If Tua goes down,
one good year, right? I think.
Yeah. And
right. 1 year without injury.
Right. And if Tua goes down, the Dolphins immediately drop the 4th in my power rankings. You know, that's just a fact. Now, look, I have the Dolphins second because I'm assuming that with the beefed up offensive line, with all the weapons they have, with the continuity in the coaching staff, and if Tua stays healthy, I think the Dolphins are the second best team in this division. Mm-hmm. But you know, they are a very injury-prone quarterback getting injured away from being a distant 4th. And
wow,
so a distant 4th in this division. So I don't
over a rebuilding Jets team.
I don't see them as rebuilding. I see them as a team that has pieces right now that can help them compete. So, you know, when I say that I was close to putting the Jets above the Dolphins, I mean it. I'm serious about that.
I believe you.
But all things being equal, if Tua is healthy, the Dolphins are the second best team in this division, in my opinion. I think that Anthony Weaver is a talented enough coordinator to overcome the deficiencies in their secondary. Mm-hmm. I think Kenneth Grant was a nice pick. I think Jonah Savai Naya
nailed it.
Dude. First try. Nah, it's like my 18th try or something like that. But I think he was a great pick for the Dolphins at right guard. He's going to start for them for a decade. James Daniels bringing him in and playing him at left guard. I think Patrick Paul is going to grow at left tackle. I think this is a team that if you put all these ingredients together, they are a top 3 offense in the NFL, if not top offense in the NFL. I think Anthony Weaver at defensive coordinator is a talented enough defensive coordinator to hold this thing together, and let the Dolphins win some shootouts. But if Tua gets hurt, all that goes out the window, which is why I was very close. And number 1, I have the Bills, and I don't want to talk about the Bills any more than I have to because I hate them. But Josh Allen is a top 2 or 3 quarterback in the NFL. Sean McDermott is a good head coach. Coaching continuity, their defense is underrated. Their offensive line doesn't seem to get hurt, and they have this continuity, and they're stellar. And Deion Dawkins is a Philly guy from Temple, and it kills me these with the Bills. And they're just going to keep on chugging along as long as Josh Allen stays healthy, and Josh Allen has never gotten hurt for them. As long as Josh Allen stays healthy, the Bills are contenders in the AFC.
I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
So everything you just said, fine.
Yeah.
But when we were going over the schedule, you swept the Jets.
Yeah.
But they were almost better than I don't understand, Look,
yeah.
I am in no way criticizing. Look, this is how you feel.
Well,
I can't. Who the fuck am I, right?
But when we do these exercises, it's with the assumption that Tua is healthy. If we're doing this exercise with the assumption that Tua is hurt, then a lot of those wins that I had for the Dolphins are going to be lost to the Dolphins, or maybe a 5-win team without Tua.
That's
in my
fair.
opinion. He masks a lot of their deficiencies, honestly. And I don't know that Zach Wilson is good enough to compensate for the things that Tua does, and the intangible things that I don't think people necessarily see that Tua does.
It's all about Quinn Ewers, baby.
Yeah.
Mind if I add something real quick about the Bills?
Absolutely.
So we had a few comments last week about the Bills on the Bills video. Again, greatly appreciate anybody who commented. Unfortunately, I do not remember exactly who it was, but somebody brought up, and I'm paraphrasing here, even a pick that all 3 of us last week, Keith, you weren't on. I don't remember what your thoughts are on Maxwell Hairston, but Josh, Dirk, and I were talking about not really being a big fan of that pick.
Mm-hmm.
But even hearing the commenter talk about, well, it's more so a pick about guarding Tyreek Hill and Xavier Worthy, the speed demons, and that's kind of the perimeter version, not necessarily being able to tackle and run defense and all that. And I can even look at it from that standpoint and go yeah, it's not the player I would have picked, but I do see the vision.
Well, and I thought Maxwell Harrison, I think, when they drafted him, I thought that was a bit of a reach, but it's also an annoying pick because Maxwell Harrison is an insanely athletic cornerback.
Yeah, a lot of potential. But yeah. I guess my point is bringing this up is you bring the Bills up as number 1. All 3 of us had the Bills as number 1. And a lot of what we said is they're just the Bills. But also, you can make the case that they have been building to get over their hump. The Dolphins' hump is winning that playoff game, beating the Bills. For the Bills, it is beating the Chiefs.
Yeah.
That is what their mission statement is going into this next season. And you look at a pick like that even isn't my favorite. After hearing a Bills fan talk about it, and you're like, yeah, you know what? I can see it. I see why you do that. I see why you go get Joey Bosa and TJ Sanders and Larry Ogunjobi. And those are a lot of great players to add to that defense. And yeah, man, it's not just they're the Bills, so they're number 1. They're also number 1 because they've done what they needed to do in the offseason to compete with their rival, which isn't necessarily the Dolphins, it's the Kansas City Chiefs.
And I'll do you one better, Taylor. I know I know this it's not what this show's about or anything like that. But if we're doing preseason Super Bowl picks, the Bills would be my Super Bowl pick. I think the Bills are primed to, and that's not exactly a hot take. They've been contenders in the AFC for a long time. I think they're primed to finally break through. I think this is their year. If you ask me right now, preseason on May 15th, when we're recording this show.
I can't go that far. I'm not a madman like Keith, despite my name down here.
Same.
But you know what? I respect it. I respect the takes.
You got to. And it'll be real curious. And we talked about this last week, Keith, where we were like, oh, what'd be really fun is if we go back at the end of the season and kind of like pre-watch all of these takes that we have and like write them down and then see like who was
How right we
closest, how right, how wrong, how crazy we were. If we were like, if we had a, hey, the Jets might be better than the Dolphins, and they actually end up being better than you. You could spike the ball on all of us. Like there's a lot of cool stuff that we'll be able to do. Doing stuff like this super early, and then doing like a full season, like a full preseason preview right before the season starts, and then looking at everything after the season. It's gonna be real fun.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. So just to review for everybody out there, we all had Bills Dolphins 1-2, and then Josh and Taylor both had Patriots Jets 3-4. I had Jets Patriots 3-4.
Mhm.
I think this is a closer division than I think any of us are comfortable with. I'm not comfortable with how good the Patriots all season was. And I talk crap on the Milton Williams signing. Milton Williams is still a solid player. He's still a solid player to add to that defensive line. A lot of their signings were solid. Bringing in Stephon Diggs, solid signing. I mean, I don't know that he's certainly not the player that he was in Buffalo and Minnesota, but like he's still
better than anything they've had.
Well, he's an alpha in a room that was very, very badly in need of an alpha.
Yeah.
So I think this division is closer than a lot of us are comfortable with, but I think this is going to be a fun division to watch. All the divisional games. And so, guys, if you like what you saw today, please like, subscribe. Let us know what you think in the comments. What do you think the AFC East power rankings are? How crazy is my take on Justin Fields? How crazy is my take on Milton Williams and all that stuff? And and we'll go from there. But thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.